Welcome to the joint Lincoln Christian University, Lincoln Christian Institute, and Common Sense Security podcast on technology in the church. And today I have with me Elise Omulokoli. You know what? I knew I was going to mess it up. I will let you say your last name because I know people mess up my last name as well. But Elise is with the Christian Campus House at Eastern Illinois University, and has a unique look into how we communicate in the church. And so I'm going to turn over to Elise. Why don't you introduce yourself and help us with your last name, and then and tell us a little bit about who you are.
Sounds good. And no worries about the name. It's Elise Omulokoli.
Thank you.
It's once you get it, it just kind of rolls. And then I usually tell people just think Annie Oakley or shop locally, and then you got it. So I'm Elise Omulokoli, and as Mark mentioned, I work at the EIU Eastern Illinois University Christian Campus House. I've been here for about 10 years, and my husband and I were married right around 10 years ago as well, and he works at the university. I studied at EIU and attended Christian Campus House as a student, and then I studied sociology and art. And then once I graduated, thought I was going to probably move far away and never be back in Central Illinois again, and studied international development. And then as life had it, here I am. I'm back in Charleston, and working in campus ministry, serving with students here, and doing a lot of the graphics side of our ministry, as well as a bunch of other hats. For those of you who work in ministry, you know all about all those hats.
Yes. You must wear multiple hats in order to do ministry, and you never are allowed to sleep. So that's why we need technology where we can schedule things to happen, where we can actually go get a nap and let the computer do the work, right?
Yeah.
So I understand you also have a little bit of a connection back to Lincoln Christian University. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep. My uncle happens to be Lynn Laughlin.
Oh, the infamous Lynn Laughlin.
Infamous Lynn Laughlin. Yep. His wife, for those of you who know his wife, Lois, is my dad's sister. So we are related in that way. So.
All right. Well, that's what we like to see. Even though you went to EIU, there's always a tie back to Lincoln somehow, right? And, you know, it's kind of like somehow ending up in Central Illinois when you never had any intention to do that. There's always a tie back to Lincoln as well. I'm very similar. I grew up in the military and all over, but the family's from Central Illinois, and I swore I would never do anything with Lincoln Christian University, and I swore I would never go to Central Illinois. And here I am for the last, getting close to 20 years. I'm a graduate myself of Lincoln. So here and now somewhat of employed and helping out, moving the word forward about Lincoln. So there's always that tie back to Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
But you're over at Christian Campus House. So why don't you tell us, because you guys have a unique ministry there to a very, very specialized group of people, and you're very effective at doing it. I mean, you yourself were a student there. So why don't you talk to us a little about what Christian Campus House does, and the people that you minister to, and the impact that you have there?
Okay. So Christian Campus House is we are a Christian campus ministry for the students of Eastern Illinois University, which is, as you all know, a state school, so generally a secular campus. Of course, there are a number of Christians who attend EIU, and so they are looking for a church home. But then there's also this very strong and growing mission field of non-believers, or students who grew up in church, but they aren't believers themselves, and may or may not be curious about figuring that out for themselves. And then we've got students increasingly who church was never even part of their fabric of growing up. It's not a default part of their weekly routine. Their family didn't make Sundays a church day. And so it's not even sort of a reflex in their thinking that when I get to college, one thing I'm going to do is what I'm going to find on Sunday. And so we are here to try to both reach the students who already do love Jesus and want a place to call home and deepen their faith, but then also reach those who don't. And so what we do is we have Sunday morning worship, we have a Wednesday night Bible study, and both of those are sort of our large group worship services that incorporate biblical teaching as well as worship, a time of worship. Our Sundays feel a little bit more formal, although being a campus ministry, we are pretty much by nature relatively informal. Mm-hmm. And then we have small groups, life groups, which meet multiple times a week. Well, they meet once a week, but there are multiple groups, and they are student-led, and they are Bible studies that we raise up student leaders. And so a big part of our identity as a ministry is leadership development. So finding students who exhibit leadership qualities and pouring into them, investing in them, helping prepare them for leading others in a life of discipleship. So that includes not just leading the small groups, but also creating events that can attract and welcome people in and help people feel comfortable, as well as even one-on-one mentoring, peer-to-peer spiritual mentoring. So we help train them in that. And of course, for those who go through our leadership, the hope naturally is for them when they graduate, that they then become an asset to just the overall church, the body of Christ, wherever they end up. And so that's a big part of what we do. We do mission trips, which is a part of what I do, overseeing like the different mission trips that we take on an annual basis. And we have all kinds of service opportunities for our students to do over the school year, social events. We have an internship program. So students who graduate, and this is what I did when I finished up my bachelor's degree. I was thinking maybe I would be interested in going into campus ministry. So I did an internship here at the campus house for 1 year, and is basically you're a fully fledged staff person. You're coming up with ministry ideas that you tackle from start to finish, as well as participating in just the general life of the ministry and the staff. So we are a very multifaceted ministry with a bunch of different things, plate spinning, but it's all for the goal. Hopefully has an impact towards the goal of raising up disciples.
And when I've been over there, I've seen you've got full services, your traditional Sunday morning services and things. The students are coming, the students are full and fill there. And then you're open all night, all day, where they can come crash in your facility and just kind of essentially, I don't want to go so far to say live there, but they could do life there. Let's say that.
Yes.
And so you have a unique role in that. You do women's ministry, you do the missions, you do a whole bunch of things. But one of the key things that I brought you on to talk about is your communication side of things, because you have a couple of interesting pieces that is a little bit different than a regular church, in that you have a new cadre of students, a new cadre of believers and non-believers that you need to impact that are coming onto the campus every September. You have people that are rotating out and taking the message forward. Yeah. So it's almost like a sports team where or even the military, where you constantly have new people coming in, constantly have people going out, instead of the what you would say a traditional church in Central Illinois or Central Indiana or wherever you're listening to this, where it's the same people that come in the door every single week. So why don't you share with me a little bit about how you communicate, how you share the message about Christian Campus House, how you communicate to that next generation, those kids that are coming out of high school and they're in college, just generally speaking, and then we can dive down into some of the technologies that you use in order to accomplish that.
Okay. So I'll start with the piece of incoming students and trying to get the word out on campus. So it is crucial every August that we basically blast campus with, here we are, flyers, posters, chalk. Our students go out and they do a lot of sidewalk chalking. The actual communicating to campus that we are here has actually gotten more challenging, partly for privacy reasons, which are generally people like to be able to not be spammed by a bunch of places they're not interested in, if you want to call it spam. But so we kind of found ourselves in a difficult spot a few years ago where the university had put in privacy rules where we could no longer send mailings about Campus House to the residence hall students because we'd be able to receive mailing letters because we are a registered student organization. And so through that status, we were able to send direct mail out.
Now, is that restriction as a result of you being Christian or religious?
No.
Or just generally speaking, there's a
generally speaking. Yeah, okay. Generally speaking, because we are not an EIU, they have a privacy in place where they no longer provide students mailing addresses.
Yeah. And let me interject here real quick. Those of you that want to understand this privacy concept a little bit further, if you go back to episode 2 that we published a couple of weeks ago, I had Callie Schlentz on with us, who is a privacy expert, and talked a little bit about this whole privacy issue and the fact that in modern society, regulations that are out there, privacy is a key thing. And people want to have the ability to have the right to be forgotten by an organization like CCH, or they don't want to be spammed, as you're talking about, Elise. They want to invite you to communicate with them instead of being forcibly communicated. So if you want more information on the privacy, you can go back to episode 2. But certainly we hear this again, that privacy, especially for a younger generation, is a very key issue. And in fact, if you're in certain states like California or over in the European Union, privacy is starting to become almost like a constitutional right in order to address some of those things. So yeah, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I thought that was a great tie. And so go ahead and keep going.
Yeah. So one thing you'd mentioned, students want to be able to opt in. We do have, after so many days of the start of school, the university will send us a list of students who either opted in or did not opt out. I forget which one it is.
Probably, yeah.
Of receiving email communication. Then we are able to access an email list, but we can no longer send mail, which the mailings were terribly effective.
Really?
Yeah, whenever we sent them out, a lot of students would say, I came because I got this thing in my mailbox, but
so I'm going to interject again. It's interesting you say that, because I talked to Nathan Soys from Atlanta Christian Church about his communication plan. And one of the key pieces of his communication plan was what we would call the old traditional newsletter. And here you are telling me again that it's effective for him and it was effective for you, but privacy and other modern technology privacy regulations are a lot of them are enacted because of technology issues and being able to, punch a million messages out through email and whatnot. And so you're now telling me that your most effective communication, or one of your most effective communications, is restricted because of these privacy issues. That's an absolutely interesting thing that I working in enterprise business, I had not heard of before. So
Yeah. And I think what else we have learned is that it really does require a multifaceted approach. So, because some students, they just never check their mailbox all year. They just don't even know where it is. And so for those, it's not going to work. And so we put out posters and we put, like I said, the chalking, and we actually have our students wear t-shirts in the first week to walk around to the EIU events. So EIU puts on a lot of welcome events, and this is part of our welcome week encouragement and vision casting, but also kind of a training for life that we try to instill in our students is go be present where people are. And when you get where people are, and you allow them to see who you are and what your life is involved, what you're involved in your life, then you can begin inviting them in. And so we have t-shirts that they can wear so that they can go be part of EIU's events and connect with people and make friendships and strike up conversations for in those first couple weeks where people are curious and they're wondering who their new friends are going to be. Especially for the freshmen and incoming students. So that's a big part of it too, is trying to get our students on campus and present where people already are, rather than just saying, hey, come over here. So one thing we've switched also is we used to always for our Welcome Week events had all of our events in our building, because we wanted people to feel comfortable. This is a building they've been to. So when it comes to Sunday church, they've already been here. They're comfortable. They know the place. They know what's behind that door.
Right.
We still do that, but we have learned that we need to start hosting some of our events on campus, very visible places.
And you guys are literally on the corner of campus, where you could almost be confused with being on campus anyway.
Right.
So you still have to literally move onto the grounds of the campus in order to be effective.
That's right. And in order to reach some of those students who they're just not gonna come over here.
Right.
And so we'll set up games and different scavenger hunts and different events on campus so that our students are there and can just say, hey, you want free whatever, and invite people who are just passing by to come on over,
Yeah. Free ice cream always works.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So with these types of, when you're developing the t-shirts, for example, or you're developing some of the flyers or other materials that people take onto the campus and the other students, take out there, your job as part of that communication is not only develop the strategy that you just talked about that is not technology related, but might be impacted by technology because of privacy issues or the lack of being able to send email and so on and so forth. But when you're developing the actual communications that you're probably using technology, graphics design software, and things like that in the process. So talk to me a little bit about what kind of technology you are using in order to put on those t-shirts or to produce the t-shirts or the flyers or whatever it is that you put out there, even the graphics on Sunday morning. What is it that you're using that's effective for Campus House?
So for me personally, I use I guess probably my primary 4 programs that I have used. 2 of them have been Photoshop and InDesign. And so those do require a bit more training and knowledge and sort of an interest in graphic design type of work.
And those are the Adobe products.
That's right. Those are the Adobe products.
And do you subscribe to those as individual software installs, or are you using the Adobe Creative Cloud suite that allows you to access those?
So here's the thing, and this is a really important point that is good for me to make, is that we don't have a subscription. We have an old computer with old software.
Okay. They
started the subscription service. And so that's one thing that that I have just continued to use, because budget-wise, being able to sign up for a graphic design subscription for Campus House, and then I would guess for a number of churches and ministries out there, it's just not realistically a budget item that is something that they can keep going with.
Right.
Especially if there's nobody who really knows how the software works and can really work with it well. And so the other 2, aside from those 2,
so the first 2 were Photoshop and InDesign, and now you're
right
on the other 2 of your core 4.
The other 2 of my core 4, and this is where you don't need a lot of expertise. And graphic design people who are real graphic design people who have that degree are going to hear this and go, oh my goodness. But I use Publisher and PowerPoint.
There you go.
And you can do surprisingly a lot of things with PowerPoint. And they're, they update it to where you can even just click and say, show me a design idea. And then you just scroll through the side and they've made all these pretty fun designs with photos from online. And so a lot of our Sunday morning stuff, our announcement slides and things, I just use PowerPoint.
Well, that's great. And that's perfect for our constituents to hear, because they may be drawn in by a volunteer who uses the Creative Cloud, the latest and greatest in their enterprise or perhaps their own home business, and they're kind of pushing the church into using that type of product, which is of course going to cost you extra money, not only in compute power, so you have to buy a new computer. You've already told us you're using an old computer, but also in the subscription service. And you're sitting here telling me that you can do this on a budget with an old computer and with PowerPoint,
Right.
and you can be effective. This is the best part about it. You can be effective with the next generation who, us older people like myself, think that you have to do all the social media and snazzy video and all that kind of stuff and have all the expensive stuff in order to be effective. But you're telling me you're incredibly effective, because I know Christian Campus House is, with just using PowerPoint.
Just using PowerPoint. Yeah. And the thing is like, if you do have somebody who has a bit of an artistic eye, and some technology savvy, they will probably know how to do like the little workarounds to make something like, to dress something like PowerPoint up. But even if you don't, like I said, like PowerPoint has like where you can click on, if it's connected to the web, like you can click on design ideas and it'll throw something up for you that looks nice.
Right.
And the thing is yes, we want our posters, we want our flyers, we want our logos, we want our things to look clean and new and up to date and consistent. But what's more important than that really is investing in people. And probably this would be a topic also somewhat related to this, would be connecting with people. And right now, of course, we all know connecting online, social media, all that is a huge way that people connect with each other and stay informed. And so effectively informing people of what's going on is probably more important than having really pretty announcement slides on Sunday, and making sure that people know that they're welcomed and feel that in the way that you do your ministry. So
that's great to hear. Because, you know, one of the things that I like to profess, you know, my profession is inside of information and cybersecurity, and the world thinks that you have to have all the whiz bang technology pieces to do that kind of thing, or protect the technology from the technology, if you will, especially when you talk about artificial intelligence and things like that. But this is a great conversation to have, and to hear that you are being incredibly effective by connecting with people. And it's important for us to understand, as talking about technology, that we don't forget that the technology is nothing more than a hook to get people together, to have real conversations and to have genuine conversations and lead people either back to Christ or to Christ to begin with. And so it's a great reminder for us that are in technology to not forget about the human that's behind all this.
Right. Yeah. It is not the ends, but rather a tool towards accomplishing your goals and your mission. Yeah.
Right. Nothing different than a hammer.
I'm sorry.
Nothing different than a hammer. When you're building a building, you need somebody to be able to swing the hammer and to think about how you're going to use the hammer. And that's what we need here in technology. We're severely lacking in people that actually think about connecting the human and the technology. So it's great to hear that.
One resource that I will say that would be potentially very useful for a number of ministries, and it's something that I have needed to be doing for a while and I haven't. If anyone out there is looking for some budget friendly and very nice looking graphics and communication technology, Canva, Canva, it's like Canva without an S, has Canva for nonprofits, and it's a free premium suite where you can do logos and they can build the images for you even. You upload certain things and they'll kind of put it together in suggested formats to make it look nice. And you can, if you have 501c3 status, you can have that for free. You just have to apply. And so that is a great tool for people if you don't have any kind of design background, you don't have the time to learn it, you don't have the staff. That's a great way to be able to create something that looks good, looks modern, doesn't look pixelated and old, and can visually catch people's eye, so that you can then tell them whatever it is you're wanting to get across.
Right. So you said that's Canva, and you need to have a 501c3. So be prepared for that. Right. We'll put Canva in the show notes. Obviously, you have to have your own 501c3, which most churches are. So if you're listening to this and you're not in the paid side of ministry, or you're not in the office administration, almost every church that I know is a 501c3, because when they take the tithe and offering, when they take the donation, they want to be able to give the individual who gave back a receipt for that, so they can use that on their taxes. And also it saves the church a lot of money on other aspects as well. So 501c3 and Canva, I'm glad to hear. And you know what? Let me just add, there's a lot of services out there. There's a lot of technology services that do at least give discounts, if not totally free, like Canva does, for not-for-profits. And it's unfortunate, though, some in this modern age, in the past couple of years, are starting to carve out those that have doctrinal beliefs, because they don't want to be tied to somebody that has, a belief different from their DEI program, the diversity, equity, and inclusion program. But it never hurts to ask. And so I'm glad you brought that up, Elise. So thank you very much. So as we wrap up here, in the last minute or two, is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience? Anything that's important, like that little nugget there about the 501c3 and Canva, that someone can use, a small church, medium church can use on a budget to reach out to the next gen folks?
To reach out to the younger generations. I think when it comes to reaching the next generation, there really is, or at least grabbing their attention, grabbing their attention. So from a communications perspective, as opposed to a missional or ministry perspective, from a communications perspective, to get their attention, you really do need to have somebody who can spend a little time on social media. And Instagram, we were finding, like, Facebook was good. It had its day. And it still has some people on it of the younger generation, but really Instagram is probably, and Twitter had its day, and it's still kind of big with some groups. But like, when we look at when we make up this 2 posts, one on Facebook, one on Instagram, we'll have maybe 9 views on Facebook, and it'll have 60, 70 views on Instagram.
Wow, that is an interesting stat, because I was talking with Nathan Soyce with Atlanta Christian Church, and he gave me stats. Atlanta Christian Church is about 150 members, old church, meaning it goes back to 1855. But it does have some newer people. He gave me stats that were the exact opposite. And really? So it's interesting that you bring that up. So if you are trying to reach the new gen, he was giving me stats where so they have 150 members in the church. Facebook had 453, if my memory serves, 450 some odd people that liked the Facebook and repeatedly engaged on messages that were sent by Facebook, but they only had 73 people that were interacting on Instagram. And you're telling me the exact opposite for the generation that you're dealing with. So so it sounds like every church, perhaps even every ministry within the church, maybe your high school, your middle school, and if you have a college or a young adult ministry, you need to be focusing in on the Instagram. Whereas for the older adults, perhaps, the grandparents are trying to see the pictures of their grandkids, and maybe Facebook is still real. So that is great information that you provided there.
Yes. And I think that's sort of indicative of the age-old parent-kid difference of like, I don't want to be part of what my parents are part of.
Right.
And so, just this year, I've asked students who are doing fundraisers for their mission trips, and we have a number of them who've set up Facebook fundraisers. And I've asked, do you have a Facebook that you can do a fundraiser on? They're like, no, but my mom does. Yeah. So, I mean, if you're talking specifically the specific younger group, social media, they are operating in different places. Snapchat,
Snapchat, Insta, as they call it. Everything's an abbreviation these days, right? So. All right. Well, Elise, thank you for joining us and giving us these tidbits of how Campus House works and what you do on a budget there, and your good stewardship of the donations that are provided to Campus House. I'm going to put a link in our show notes to Campus House. So if you want to contact Campus House for more information, you're more than welcome to, or to see what they're doing. I will tell you personally from the impact that you've had on one of my boys. Has been absolutely tremendous. And so I know from a personal perspective that this ministry and this effort is very effective, and it is also growing young men and women as Christian leaders and as Christian people within our organization, within our world, I should say. So, go out there, check out Christian Campus House, and take a look at what they're doing, and know that all that fun stuff you see on behind the scenes is done by Elise. And I'm hoping that we can have a part 2 of this, where perhaps we can get some of your students on to talk about that social media type of aspect. So hopefully that, look forward to that coming in the next couple of weeks as we publish these different interviews. So Elise, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate what you're doing there, and I appreciate your ministry for us. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us today as we talk through communications. I hope you have a great day. And if you have any questions, just reach out and be happy to have further conversations through those old-fashioned means of email, telephone, and whatever else means you want to communicate with us. So look forward to it. Thank you very much.